Hello, my name is Caitlin Lizama, and to begin my talk, I want to propose a question. How many of you remember coming home in the first or second grade ecstatic to begin your homework? Probably none of you, because let's be frank, how many 6-year-olds enjoy doing their homework? But you place your book bag on your dining chair, grab your pencil, and place your homework folder on your dining table. You're probably thinking you're going to have to draw yourself in 100 years or draw your favorite animal. But to your surprise, it's a math worksheet. You try to comprehend what's in front of you, but you have zero clue what's happening. You go to your parents for help, but they tell you, "Lo siento mucho, pero no entiendo," trying to comfort you as you're bawling your eyes out. You try to understand one last time, but you just end up filling up the paper with tears. The crying portion is probably relatable towards high school students, but at the age of 6, this is what I and many other first-generation Americans and immigrants had and still have to go through today. The number of immigrants and refugees is always increasing in the United States. Upon arrival in America, their first objective is to find a job to take care of their families. This means that families place their trust in strangers, such as early childhood educators, instead of relatives or friends to take care of their children. According to Matzi Sherzada, in some cases, teachers see us more than our parents or friends do. Early childhood programs should be creating a bond between families, one where their private and public lives are interlinked. During my interview with Carla España, a supervised field worker, advisor, and course instructor at Bank Street College of Education, she stated that it is crucial that teachers break away from the traditional way of thinking. Many teachers believe that it is not their place to get involved in a child's life, and to only teach them what is required of them to teach. But to truly understand how to teach a child, you have to be willing to get to know their backgrounds. Carla España came to the United States at the age of 5 from Chile. She remembers struggling in her classes and crying because she didn't understand why she wasn't at the same level as her peers. It took years and help from teachers who were involved in her life to feel confident as a student. Now, as a teacher herself, she tries to form relationships with the students and their families. She often visits the students' homes and tries to play with them after school as well. She tries to get to know every student's culture and incorporate it into her classroom. Many people think that kids under the age of 7 are all the same when they begin school. They think since they haven't been taught stuff already, they're all going to learn a certain way, which is completely wrong. Christina Gellanders, editor of the book Spotlight on Young Children, Equality and Diversity, explains how at an early age students start to understand how the world works around them and how to respond to expectations their families and communities have. These skills can even develop as a baby. However, every student has a different response to different situations, as they all do not live the same way. And when a child does not learn a certain way or respond to something a certain way, they are known to have a quote-unquote deficient. Often, children from a historically undeserved community are considered to have a deficient and therefore taught to be at risk for failing at school. But if a teacher is willing to get to know the child's background, they will be able to comprehend what the child is experiencing. They will be able to break away from the mindset that all children are the same. They will be able to find new ways of teaching. For example, 1, they can include different languages in the classroom, and they can also learn some of the students' native languages and incorporate it into the classroom. Not only will the child feel more comfortable in that environment, but this allows the teacher to remember how difficult it is to learn a second language for those that are learning English as a second language. They can also invite ESL students to have constant conversation with fluent children. Not only will the ESL child improve their English, but the other child will also get a glimpse of a new language. The Gifted and Talented program is a creation of this long-established mindset that all children are the same when they begin school, and do not put into account the student's background, which is harming immigrants and first-generation Americans today. Gifted and Talented programs were created to assist high-achieving students. But how do you determine which students are gifted and talented? A test is given to students to determine if they are qualified to enter the program. A test is distributed to students as young as kindergartners. In fact, according to Grace Chen, the writer of an article called Gifted and Talented, kindergarteners, right or wrong. She states, many children receive preparation for gifted and talented programs long before their feet even touch the halls of academic buildings. Children performing at the top tier in these programs most likely do not have help from tutors, but the parents certainly help them by printing out worksheets and teaching the child themselves. Whether a child is accepted into these programs are defined by the verbal nature of the test. Right from the start, immigrant and first-generation American students are placed at a disadvantage. A majority of immigrant parents are not able to teach their child English. Therefore, their child is placed in ESL classes. It comes with no shock that about 60% of the gifted and talented students in the United States in 2014 were white. About 17 were Hispanic, 10 were Asian, and 9% were black. In 2004, in Scottsdale Unified School District, white students represented only 38% of the overall population, but made up 72% of the gifted and talented program population. Latino students represented 50% of the overall population, yet only made up 14% of the gifted and talented student population. Under the direction of Kimberly Lawsdown, director of the Gifted and Talented program in the school district, the district began a 3-year action research project to determine ways to identify CLD students who qualified for Gifted Talented program, who qualified for the Gifted and Talented program. The district began using the Jarvis Gifted Characteristics Checklist for underrepresented students. This checklist moved beyond collecting evidence of individual academic achievement in school settings by focusing on the student's ability to work in a teamwork environment and by focusing on the child's ability to question and challenge routine procedures and to relate well to peers and adults in an informal setting and with informal language. Consequently, more students with CLD backgrounds were selected for gifted and talented development opportunities and were provided with supplemental learning experiences, including field trips to museums and science and nature centers. In May 2008, only 4 years after they were using this checklist, white students accounted for 40% of the school population and made up about 41% of the gifted student population, and Latino students represented about 47% of the student population and made up an astounding 41% of the gifted student population. The school district began admitting students holistically rather than on a test score, which seemed to benefit the Latinx community because more were admitted. More school districts and school systems around the country should begin using the Jarvis Gifted Characteristics Checklist for underrepresented students, because then otherwise immigrants and first-generation Americans are at a huge disadvantage. Now, what can we do as non-educators? Volunteering to tutor children who are not able to get the help they need at home is first. I remember around this time, a 9-year-old boy named Alessandro moved to my building from Peru. His mother went to the North Oregon Board of Education to register her son for the next school year. However, he needed to take a test to see if he was able to move on to the 3rd grade or if he needed to repeat the second grade. I volunteered to help him study for the test because his mom was not able to do so. For 2 months, I printed out worksheets for him to do. If there was a mistake, I would correct him and teach him how to do it. In August, he took the test and was able to move on to the 3rd grade. Second, join organizations that help students secure a bright future. A great example of an organization you could join is the National Association for the Education of Young Children. Their main objective is to promote high-quality early learning for all children. Lastly, you can go online and see if there's a website for your area and your town that lists a bunch of resources for immigrants and first-generation Americans. If there is not one, well, good, you can create one. If you know that your library is having a session where they are helping students with their math homework, you can include that on your website. In some way or another, you can help our younger generation who are crying right now because they do not know how to spell the word conscious, a word I still struggle spelling today. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. Have a great day.